Discuss with you on exercise, long questions, short questions, plus your MCQs. Okay, I think you all have done in your copies and books, and inshallah I will share short question with you in your next homework. Now today we will start our chapter number 2. Okay, so chapter number 2 is solving a biological problem. What is this? Solving a biological problem. Biological problem. So as this chapter name shows us that in this chapter we will discuss that how biological problems are created and how they are solved. What is their method? How can we solve this problem? First of all, keep in your mind, biology is the study of life. Okay, so the biology work with a lab. Okay, so what is happening in our study? Biology all work with a man, with a human. So definitely all things are going change day by day. Okay, its evolution is going day by day. It's not sustained. Okay, so what is happening all around us? So in ancient times, the people said that the all people were biologists because some people work with probes, some people work with water. Okay, some work with fruits. Okay, they know about which animal is good for them, what is its habitat, how can we feed them, how can we get meat, milk and butter from these animals. Okay, so they also know about the plants, which plants are better for them, how can they make medicines, how can they use them for their health, how can they use some plants for as foods. Okay, so we can say that every man is biologist from ancient times to till now. Okay, so after that we will discuss that what is a biological problem, how can we solve it, and definitely this whole work is related to a man, and man is a definitely in our surrounding many things are going change day by day. Okay, so the evolution of a man is going continue. It never stops. Okay, now I will discuss with you what are the steps of biological method. So first of all, when we start a biological problem, the first step is called recognition. Recognition. So what is a recognition? Recognition means you have to aware the problem which you want to solve, the thing which is going to be changed in your surrounding. Okay, definitely we all of know that all persons which live on the earth, definitely they have some issues, so they want to solve their problems. Okay, so recognition, you have to underline the definition of recognition in your book. A biological problem is a question related to living organism that is either asked by someone or comes in biologist mind by himself. Answer is very simple. This question can comes in your mind, and this can ask this any question can comes in any biologist. Okay, so first of all you have to know about the recognition of your problem. Recognition means you should be familiar with your problem which you want to solve. Okay, the problem can be anything. First of all, if you see any bird, you are aware how they are flying there, so you can also discuss about the birds, how they are fly, why persons cannot fly there. So when we discuss this is proof that all birds have hollow bones and they are light in weight, so they can fly higher, but humans are bones are not hollow, they have some matrices and materials inside, so they have a weight, so they cannot fly in the air. Okay, so this is called recognition. So when you start a biological method, first of all you will discuss about the recognition. Okay, what is the problem in your surrounding? After recognition, we will discuss the observations. Observations. Second step is called observations. So what are observations? Observations can be anything. When you have to find a problem, then you will want to observe. So first of all, when you start the observation, so which thing will help you? First of all, your vision. Second, your smell. Third, your taste. Fourth is touch. Okay, and the fifth is that hearing. And fifth is that hearing. So when you start observation of any problem, first of all, these things will help you. Okay, first vision, you will see the problem. Second, smell. If you have to smell, if you want to smell, you can smell that thing. If you want to taste, you will taste that thing. If you want to touch, is it hard? Is it soft? You can use your touch sense. If you want to hear, definitely you will use your hearing sense. Okay, so these are five senses. Okay, so these are five senses which will help you to understand the problem. Hypothesis. Hypothesis is a statement which can be and which can be false. Definitely, when scientists began to work on any problem, definitely they have different issues. So, when they do the experiments, they find different statements. Some statements can be true and some statements can be false. Okay. So, hypothesis means a statement which can be true and which can be false. So, underline the definition in your book. The tentative explanation of observations is called hypothesis. Tentative explanation. Tentative means a statement can be true, a statement can be false. Okay. So the tentative explanation of observation is called a hypothesis. Now question is that definitely we are observing problem in our surrounding. So definitely this problem will come into our next step, hypothesis. Okay. So for a good hypothesis, there should be some important characteristics. What are these characteristics? First one is called, it should be a hypothesis can be 50% true and can be 50% wrong. So it has some important characteristics. First is called tentative explanation. Tentative explanation. Tentative means this statement can be true and this statement can be false. It doesn't become a law because after hypothesis there are other steps. After that, then it becomes a law. Now keep in your mind, in biology there is a theory, there is not any law. Why? Because evolution of human is going day by day. There are changes going day by day. So we cannot say this is confirmed law and it will become the part of biology. As if we compare to physics and chemistry, definitely they have specific rules, specific elements and examples. So in physics and chemistry we can make a law, but in biology we cannot make a law. We need a theory. Okay, so we observe the theory. So first important characteristic of good hypothesis is that it has a tentative explanation. Definitely the statements which we will find after the experiment, it can be false and it can be true. 50% it can be true and 50% it can be false. Okay. Second important statement is that, important good characteristic is that hypothesis should be simple. What is that? Hypothesis should be simple. Okay. It should be in simple language. Okay. And the third important characteristic of hypothesis is that deduction. Okay. So this word is new for you, deduction. What is deduction? Deduction is that you can guess other things from one thing. For example, if we take an example of a person who said that sparrow has wings, that person only has seen the sparrow. He never seen the other birds. Okay, but he said that sparrow has wings, and then he guessed that other birds in the world should have feathers. Okay, so they also have feathers. So we can say sparrow has feathers. So the other birds also have. He has never seen the other birds, but he guessed from one thing. He just saw the sparrow and he said that other birds also have wings. Okay, so deduction is that when we guess anything from one thing. Okay, for example, a person has seen any fruit. Okay, for example, a person has seen an apple and he said that other fruits are also like an apple. Okay, so this is called a deduction. So when we discuss on hypothesis, a hypothesis has some important characteristics. So a good hypothesis should have these characteristics in it. First is called it has a tentative explanation. Its statement can be true or false. Second, a hypothesis should be simple. Third is that deduction. Some things will be the part of the hypothesis and something will be deducted. We can guess one thing, we will see one thing and we guess the other thing. This is called deduction. Okay. And after that, a great deal of a careful and creative thinking is necessary for the formation of hypothesis. So biologists use reasoning to formulate a hypothesis. So what did they use? They use reasoning. Reasoning means solid statements. Okay. So when they do the hypothesis, they collect different informations from different areas, from different relevant things, and then they use their reasoning. They also use their mind. They also use their five senses, and then they said that this is hypothesis. Okay. So keep in your mind, a good hypothesis should have some characteristics, and these characteristics are: it have a tentative explanation, it should be simple, it should be related to deduction, and it should be used reasoning. Okay, so this is the introduction of hypothesis. After that, we will go to deduction. Okay, after hypothesis, there is another step of biological method, that is called deduction. So what is a deduction? I have told you, when we guess other things from one thing. For example, I have given you an example. If one person has seen a sparrow, he said it has wings. So he assumed, he guessed that other birds also have wings. So this is called deduction. Okay. So look at your book. Its definition is given under the heading of deduction. Second line. Deductions are the logical consequences of hypothesis. For this purpose, a hypothesis is taken as true and expected results are drawn from it. Underline this definition of deduction in your book. Deductions are actually the logical consequences of hypothesis. Okay, when hypothesis is proved by reasoning, then it comes into a next step, which is called deduction. Okay, and when we talk about the deduction, we should take an example of Darwin. Darwin was a scientist. Okay, and he did a lot of work on the evolution of our humans, evolution of human life. Okay, so he used the deduction and find the different stages of human life. Okay, after that, when deduction is completed, then next step is come, which is called experimentation. Next step is come, which is called experimentation. So what is experimentation? Definitely when scientists are recognize the problem, they use their observation, five senses, sort out qualitative and quantitative. Then they have to formulate a hypothesis, and they use all these characteristics in their hypothesis and use the deduction. After that, experimentation will come. Definitely the thing is clear in their mind. So they will start to do experiments. Okay, so in science, biologists or any scientist, they do experiments many times. Okay, why do they repeat the experiment? To find the accurate results. Okay, why do they repeat the experiment? To find the accurate results. Okay, so in experimentation, scientists do experiments again and again to sort out the actual result. Okay, so mark it your book. This is also important for your MCQs. The most basic step of biological method is experimentation. Biologists perform experiments to see if hypotheses are true or not. So why do scientists do the experiments? To sort out is hypothesis is true or false. Okay, so the deductions which are drawn from hypotheses are subjected to rigorous testing. Through experimentation, biologists learns which hypothesis is correct. Okay, So we can also, for example, if we take an example of experimentation, okay, we can take an example of birds. Okay, we can take an example of birds. Okay, birds are descendants. Birds are descendants and reptiles are ancestors. And reptiles are ancestors. Okay. Birds are descendants and reptiles are ancestors. In simple words, I can explain you. Reptiles are ancestors and birds come from reptiles. Okay. So this is called evolution. So how do they find? Darwin do many experiments again and again and then sort out that reptiles are ancestors of birds. As you know that mustard plant, if we take an example of plants, mustard plant is an ancestor of many things. For example, in mustard plant, from mustard plant, you can get cabbage, you can get cauliflower, you can get broccoli, you can get lettuce, and many other things. Okay, so birds are descendants and reptiles are ancestors. So birds comes from reptiles. Okay, so this is proved by after experimentation. In experimentation, there is another important thing. Experiment can be of two types. Okay. First is called control experiment, and second is called experimental group. Okay, beta. Experiment can be divided into two groups. First is called control group and second is called experimental group. Now, to understand this concept, what is the difference between two control group and experimental group? Okay, I will give you an example. Okay, for example, if scientists take two groups, so experimental groups and control group, they have given a task. What is the task is that both groups have to find that how much carbon dioxide is needed during photosynthesis. Okay, so what is the task for these two groups? The task is that how much carbon dioxide is required for the photosynthesis of plants. Okay, how much quantity of carbon dioxide. So for this statement, is it true or false? Okay, the scientists made two groups. First is called control group and second is called experimental group. Okay, so the control group, was that in which the carbon dioxide is not free for them. Okay, actually the plants are put in that environment from where they cannot get carbon dioxide freely from environment. But experimental group, the plants are put in that environment where they can get carbon dioxide in a large amount. Okay, what is the difference between two? In control group, the plants are put in that environment where the carbon dioxide was not free. They cannot get free carbon dioxide. But experimental group are put on that area where they can get proper carbon dioxide. So what was happens? Definitely the experimental group was much better as compared to control because they are free for carbon dioxide. So the ratio of photosynthesis was more faster as compared to control group. Okay, so this example is also given in your book, page number 23. Okay, now I will explain you. For example, in an experiment to test the necessity of carbon dioxide for photosynthesis, one can contrast the control group, a plant with freely available carbon dioxide, with an experimental group, a plant with no carbon dioxide. So, the necessity of carbon dioxide will be proved when photosynthesis occurs in the control group and does not occur in experimental group. Okay. So, these are the two types of experiment. After experimentation, definitely scientists need to explain their data. Okay. So definitely the data which they collect. So that is called, next step is called summarization. Summarization. The next step will be summarization. Definitely, the scientists which they did experiment, definitely they collect some data. So they will organize that data. They will summarize that data. They will put them in a graph in the form of graph, in the form of any calculations. Okay. So this step is called summarization. Okay. So you have to underline the definition of summarization. Biologist gathers actual quantitative data from experiments. Data for each of the groups are then averaged and compared statistically to draw conclusions. Biologists also using statistical analysis. Okay, in the form of stats, they collect the data. After that, the last step is called reporting the results. Last step is called reporting the results. Okay, definitely the scientists have summarized the data. Definitely they have to report. They have to tell the world. So what will they do? Definitely they will put that data in any magazine, in any social media to represent the people that they see the data and tell is this true or false. Okay. So the last step is called reporting the result. So biological method consists of some parts. First step is called recognition. Okay, you have to learn in order. Second is called observations. Third is called hypothesis. Fourth is called deduction. And fifth is called experimentation. And sixth part is called summarization. And seventh is called reporting the results. Okay? So a biological method consists of 7 steps: recognition, observations, hypothesis, deduction, experimentation, summarization, and reporting the result. I hope you understand that today's lecture. Inshallah, we will discuss in our next lecture study of malaria and example of biological method. Okay, bete, thank you so much. Allah Hafiz.